Are you living well? Do you wish you were? What does it mean to live well? What could you do to be living well? Well, today you're in luck. We're going to talk about how to live well. Is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Danny, everybody. Randy, what's up, Randy?
Yo, Danny.
So you had the idea for this episode. You wanted to do a couple ideas for what was it? How to live, just a few each on how to live
I thought
well.
I thought it'd be like some ideas for how to live a really great life.
Hmm.
Because, there's all these things out there. There's like habits of highly effective people, there's flow, there's grit, there's all these different things that are buzzwords that mean garbage. But like
Yeah,
what actually can make your life better?
that is a good question. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
I
you
was
want to just
thinking
throw?
about some things.
Okay. Yeah. What do you got?
Yeah.
I have a couple in my mind
Okay.
too now. Okay.
Yeah, so I've been reading. I mean, there's been a lot of good books that I've read this year, and we did another episode on our top books of this year. One of
I've read
them,
a lot of
very
books already
interesting.
this year, by the way. I
I
didn't even
know,
realize
same.
it. A ton. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Uh, One of the books was called Outlive by Peter Attia. And one of the things that I got from the book that was very, very interesting was like all these things that we think will make our life better and our health better. Really, there's like all these medical things and everything, they mean so little. Really, the biggest impact we can have on our health, on our quality of life, our longevity, everything is diet and exercise.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, so like I was thinking about this earlier today. Like everybody wants to grind and be a millionaire and be an influencer and be whatever. And it's like those things, if you work on them really hard and you never give up, eventually, maybe you might be graced by it.
Yeah.
But diet and exercise, if you actually do those, you are guaranteed physical laws, like you are guaranteed the
Yeah.
results. And if we take a look at society at large, and no pun intended at large,
Yeah.
you know, they're not doing the things where the results are guaranteed. They're still
Yeah.
trying to do these things where it's a little bit of random chance.
Yeah.
And so,
What's funny? This is a side note. It's not totally a question.
yeah,
My size has not changed really much since high school, but my size in clothes has gotten like smaller because they keep increasing them, you
oh
know?
yeah,
Yeah.
dude, I know.
I wear a small now. I used to wear like a medium or a large, and now I'm in a small. And like
Yeah, I know.
I was like, what happened? Did I shrink?
Dude,
It's the
it's
truth though.
American sizes. They just keep getting bigger and
Yeah.
bigger and bigger. Uh, that made me think of Mr. Rogers. I read a book about him, his biography or something. His whole adult life, he weighed 143 pounds, and that was very important number because that's the number of letters in "I love you."
Oh, nice.
Right? So okay,
Yeah.
so anyways, back to the stuff about health. So like what he was saying there in terms of diet and exercise is like as you get older, you're guaranteed that your physical capabilities will lessen.
Yeah.
So anyone who has this idea of like doing adventurous stuff when you're older, if you can't at least do that now and probably a lot more at this point, you're not going to be able to do it when you're older. So like being in the best physical condition you can have now is extremely important. And because as you get older, it'll just go. And also like he stressed a little bit more about like the better health you're in now, the better quality of life you'll have when you get older. You won't
Oh
have
yeah.
the last 10 years in a hospital. You'll have the last 10 years where you're actually able to do stuff by yourself. So
Well, you'll have
I
your
found that to
mobility, you'll have your abilities to do things like, yeah, and you're right. Like, yeah, if you hike a lot now, you'll be able to hike later. Maybe not the same stuff, or it might be a little harder, but you'll be able to do it. Whereas if you don't do that now, you're not going to be able to do it later because you won't have any of the skills, muscle, and ability, you know?
yeah. It actually, I mean, it actually made it very clear to me how I need to do even more now so that I can have a better life later. Because like mobility, athletics, all that stuff, I was having no problem with it now. But I was like, I'm not actually the best I can be right now. Like I can develop more muscle now
Yeah.
because knowing as I get older is going to disappear. I want to have the most that I can have now.
Well, it's funny too. It also speaks to like the whole you know, everything is built on like convenience and like not changing it. Like our whole medical industry, most of it's built on not changing anything. Like, you go to the doctor with a problem, instead of changing something in your life, you take a pill. And I mean, most drugs. I mean, I remember reading, this was a while ago.
Diabetes.
Yeah, well,
Case in
most of them
point,
are. Yeah,
100%, like not 100%, but pretty much 90% plus responsive to diet.
yeah,
And yet that's $1 billion industry.
yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's crazy because people just don't want to change their habits or what they're used to. And it's interesting because like, they've done studies where like, the biggest things that have helped like with longevity was like having sewer, having clean water, having means to clean like our house and stuff and like, stuff like that. Not really medicine.
Doctors, surgeons stopping delivering babies after doing
Yeah. Yeah.
autopsies on the dead,
Yeah. Literally.
necropsies. Yeah.
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 Basic
That was,
knowledge. Yeah. Well,
that
it's
was
like,
huge.
remember, it was what's his name? What was the president who got shot and didn't die from the bullet? He died from infection because the guy that got there like put his finger and he was like touching the horse reins and stuff before, they didn't wash their hands. I forget which president
Yeah.
it was, but yeah,
Yeah.
basic stuff like that. So it wasn't really like
Was
it's not
it
like the medical
Garfield?
industry. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, yeah.
How about
He
that?
died from an infection. Yeah, it wasn't though, but it
I
wasn't
only
like the
knew that
medical
because of a
industry.
Johnny Cash song.
Oh, really?
Go figure. His America album. He does like the whole history of America.
Yeah, I didn't know
Yeah.
that. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think but that's the funny thing. Like, why is it so hard for us to do what is in our best interest? We look to the future a lot, but we're not very future oriented, and that's what I would find what's very fascinating, right? We all worry about the future, but we don't do anything now to make we just assume it's gonna like either be terrible or good without any effort on our part.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's a tough one because it's like the short term payoff is a lot more palpable than the
it is
long term.
powerful. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think we've also all been trained to focus on the short term more and more as time's gone on. Like I
Hmm.
think we're way more short-term oriented now than we've ever been in terms of like, planning, thinking, and even how we look at our lives. We look at the next year, the next couple of years rather than the next 10 or the next 20. And it's like, yeah,
It is hard because there's no loyalty anymore. There's like
nope.
back in the day, you would graduate high school and then you're like, well, what company should I go work at? And once you get a job, you work there for life.
Dude, there was literal stories of people who used to work like in janitor or mailroom and then it would be like a president or executive, because they stayed there
Yeah,
for 40 years. And it's like,
exactly.
can't do that
And there were
anymore.
stories of people who worked as a janitor their whole life, and that was a living salary.
Yeah. Yeah. Literally.
Yeah.
Hmm.
My grandfather was one of them. He worked as a janitor, and that was enough to raise a family. Like,
Yeah. And have
that
health
was fine.
insurance and have car and everything. Yeah, it's crazy.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's changed so much, and I think that that's been a major like hurdle for a lot of people is that convenience and the pressure and the feeling, you don't have time for this stuff when it's probably the best investment of time you can make, which is, taking care of yourself and in yourself, you know, putting aside
Hey,
like all the immediate gratification.
because also it's something where, like, if you take good care of yourself, you look better, you feel better, and other people who are drawn to superficial things are more attracted to you because your biological potential for reproductive capability it's hardwired in. So
Yeah,
they're going to give you better jobs. They're going to pay more attention to you. They're going to be friendlier to you. All of this stuff totally within your control, but very few people actually do it.
yeah, it's really strange, isn't it? And I think exercise is good too because it teaches you to just how to like, you know, you it's one of those few instances where there's a very clear relationship between the effort you put in and the gains you make. And I think it
Mm-hmm.
really can teach you like, it can be a good analogy to anything else, like learning something new and stuff. Like working out, it took me quite a long time to get to a certain point where I could even like lift like, 150 pounds or something. But I could see the progress and I could see the slow progression. And I knew if I just kept at it, I would get there. And that translates to everything else. And the physicals but is really easy to tell though. So I think it is a good way for people to kind of get a better sense of like how long things take,
Mm-hmm.
expectations, and just how effort can pay off, in the end.
I like that you mentioned the gradual nature of it because when I was younger, I was very impetuous. So, like, I remember when I first started working out, I would go like hard. I would go like 5 days a week, doing like splits and everything like that. But I would burn out after 2, 3 months, or I
Yeah.
would get injured or something like that. So like as I get older, I'm more into this minimum effective dose type thing where it's like, what's the minimum that I can do where I can maintain this for life? And so,
Yeah, a better way to look at it, longevity, right?
yeah. And so like
Doing
when I started lifting again, I I was like 2 days a week. I can do that. I go with a trainer one day and I do it on my own one day. And I can do that for life. It's not, it works for gaining muscle. It's not the ultimate thing that I could possibly do, but it's sustainable. It's going to increase muscle and it's fun.
I think that's the problem a lot of people make though. Whether it's like exercise, whether it's learning something new, you know, managing your time at first is really important. Like setting clear like guidelines for what you can maintain all the time. Because like you can't like, you might have 5 hours on a weekend day or a weekend day to like spend doing something, learning something new, but you can't do that every day. It's not going to work. You will burn out, right? You'll lose your motivation. So really like managing that is a really good way early on to keep doing it long term. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to listen to yourself sometimes too. Cause even
Yeah.
my trainer was giving me a hard time because he's like, why don't you come 3 days a week? Like you should really do 3 days a week. And I was like, okay, let's brainstorm this. I do 3 days a week. I burn out in 3 months. Or I do 2 days a week for life. Which one is better? And he's like,
Yeah,
2 days
right.
a week. I was like, okay, fine. I'll do 2 days a week.
We're agreed. But that's it though, too, because I've done that to myself so many times where I've gotten into something, did it way too much, or took on too much, and then, you end up missing out on something you probably wanted to do or would have wanted to accomplish without really, without even knowing it because you never give yourself a chance at the outset.
And plus, like with this minimum amount that you can do, like I've been doing it for months and I still sometimes want to go an extra day a week, like, or an
Yeah.
extra 2 days a week because it's like, it's still enjoyable. And yeah,
Yeah, you
I
haven't you
think that
haven't
takes
turned it
like,
into like you haven't turned it into work, where
yeah.
it's like a yeah, that's the problem. I think when we turn things into work, it makes it really hard to keep doing it
Hmm.
because it just feels like the grudging routine.
Yeah.
You know,
So,
oh, go ahead. I just had another one, but I just lost my train of
oh, I
thought.
was going to say, so what are your suggestions for how to live an ideal life? I also think the diet is really important. So I was misled by diet for a long time. I followed these trend diets. I did a whole bunch of stuff because I was overweight when I was a kid. And so like I've done like everything. And the first thing I did was I just like stopped eating after 7 o'clock at night and I dropped some weight. You know, that was enough. But I've done like the no carb diets. I've done intermittent fasting. I've done eat more weight, like all these different things. So what recently, thanks to YouTube, thanks to the internet, uh, Alex Hormozy, we talk about him all the time. He's
Yeah,
like
he's
a
great.
freaking beast now.
Yeah, he's huge. He keeps getting bigger. Every new
Yeah,
video I see, I'm like, damn.
I mean, he's got to be doing some type of like anyways. So he had a video on diet, and I found it really interesting because he's like, listen, we overcomplicate it. And one of the reasons I listen to him is because he's been a success in many areas of his life, and he's very humble about it. Uh, he's not like trying to monetize his everything. He gives it all away for
He doesn't
free.
come off as an asshole. No, he doesn't.
Yeah, that too. And
Yeah.
so he was talking about it, and plus he literally built up like a gym and fitness empire. So if anybody's going to know about diet, probably going
You
to
would
be
hope he
him.
does. Yeah.
Yeah. And plus, he sold me with how he's eaten dessert every day for the past 20 years and still has a six pack. So I'm like, that sounds pretty awesome. So it turns out it comes down to just uh, eating a certain amount of calories and a certain amount of protein. And that's it. Anything else, as long as you stick with under a certain amount of calories and above a certain amount of protein, you're golden. And it's
Yeah.
simple. Yeah. So it's like your body weight in pounds times 15 is what you would need to maintain your weight in terms of calories.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah. And then
Okay.
your body, so if you're 200 pounds, you would need 3,000 calories to maintain your body weight.
Okay.
Okay. And then if you want to lose, you just go down to uh like 12 or 11 times your weight. So 12 is the minimum. So 200 pounds, that would be 2,400 calories. Start eating that. Just do that long term, 2,400 calories a day.
Yeah.
And the biggest, and you want to eat a gram per pound of body weight in protein. And so the biggest thing that was mind blowing to me before I started doing this, I was on no carb diet for years. And initially it worked fantastically. And then it didn't for a long time. Because I mean, it's basically like you can eat whatever you want as long as there's no carbs. And so I was
Yeah.
eating like eggs and bacon and all this,
Yeah.
all this stuff that was delicious and great. But when I actually figured out how many calories I was eating a day, I was blown away. I was
Yeah.
eating like 5,000 plus calories a day
Wow.
and I
That's a
was
lot.
still hungry. And I was just like, well, no wonder I'm not losing weight.
Yeah.
So, anyways, and then like, yeah, so once I started doing that, and it was easy, I was just like, what's the minimum effective dose? Okay, fine. My weight times 12. And that's how many calories I'll eat a day. And it was just simple. And I was no longer on a restricted diet. I was able to eat
Yeah.
anything that I wanted. And as long as
Well,
I just ate enough to stay within that calorie range.
that's what I always never understood about like a lot of the diet trends, they cut out things. And the problem with that is that like just simply cutting something out of your life doesn't mean you have control. You know, it
Yeah.
means you're abstaining from it, which means you still want it, which means you're still drawn to it, which means you're going to be feeling that all the time. So it's going to diminish the value of everything else. It's going to make everything else feel like a chore. It's going to make, eating, which is part of like everyday life, feel like work, and it's going to ruin it. And it's not going to be able to maintain it for a long time.
Dude, Martha Beck actually did her PhD research on like diet psychology.
Really? I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
I listened to one of her books. I think it was called The 4 Day Winner. It may have been another one, but it was basically about that. And basically they have studies where they like took people who were normal body weight, normal everything, and then they put them on restrictive diets. And after the diet was over, they like ballooned.
Yeah, because
And
they're
it's
probably like desperate for
yeah,
certain things and all.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I've never really had a problem with that, but I always just, I don't know. I always just eat whatever I feel like my body needs, I guess, if that makes sense. I don't know. And
Yeah.
I feel like I'm kind of
Well,
lucky in certain.
some people don't have to worry about it, but for
Yeah.
for the majority of people in America, I
Yeah.
think it can be helpful if we knew this information.
It
And
would be.
I
It'd be
mean,
good. Yeah.
honestly, like actually sitting down and just looking up how many calories are and stuff and just keeping track. Because you remember how I keep track of how much money I spend every day. So
Yeah.
like I started doing that same thing with what I eat. So now every day I know how many calories I eat. I know exactly what I eat.
It's easy to
And
find that information anyway now. It's not like you have to, like,
yeah,
it's
you just
hard.
search whatever you want, whatever you have on
Yeah.
Google, and then type nutrition data, and you can find it. And yeah, because what gets measured gets managed,
Yeah.
and it's
That's
crazy
true.
how it works.
That is a true
Mhm.
thing. Yes, it is. I like
Yeah,
that.
so
That's a
now
good
it's your
one.
turn. I gave two already.
Oh,
You
that's
got to catch
two.
up.
Man. All right. I got to catch up. Yeah. I was going to say, uh, I think one of my first ones would be, if you really want to live well, though, I think is keep learning. I think that's probably
Mm.
the most important thing for me is like, and I think goes in part with having some kind of goal too with whatever you're learning. I think is very helpful. Like we were talking about this before we recorded, but like, you know, I don't know, I feel this all the time. When you don't have a goal or something you're working towards, it's really hard to do things. It's hard for us to motivate ourselves when we don't feel like there's any payoff. Like, yeah, I know a lot of times we expect to like, we look for other things like are we making money from it or something like that, but like just any goal can be a good way to motivate yourself. So I think like continuing learning, like having a goal that like I want to know this and I want to be able to do X, Y, or Z. Or like assigning yourself a project that you want to do and then learning what you need to do that project is a really good way to keep doing it long term. And like, keep learning new things and just exploring new things. Cause like I know like myself, and I know you've been there too, where like, we've been at points in our lives where you feel trapped because you're doing something you don't want to do. But then like you look at like, well, I spent all this time getting to this point, even though I hate it. So if I want to transition to something else, that's going to take all this time. And am I like, is it stupid to like leave something that I've spent all this time working towards? Well, no, it's a good idea if you hate it, right? But like you have to have that motivation to do the other thing. So learning, I think everybody has time to do it. It's just having that goal to keep you motivated and having like a clear, fixed idea of what you're trying to go after is really helpful for that.
Yeah, those are some great points. And I think a lot of people probably because had I have like stopped learning with school, because I hated school. Like
Yeah.
hated. It was the worst. You basically had to learn a bunch of stuff that you weren't interested in.
Or that
And
doesn't
then
matter. You can look it up later. Like you don't need to
yeah,
memorize, you know?
yeah, yeah. And plus it's like, you're either held back or you feel like you're dragged forward by a class of 30 people. Like you take 30 people and you're going to find people who are brilliant and people who are terrible in any field. And
Yeah,
they're going to
it
be
doesn't matter what.
I mean, this whole concept of like a genius is just in one particular area because everywhere else they're a freaking retard.
Yeah.
So like you have to like temper yourself, but in having classes that are that big or bigger, it's almost impossible because you can't learn at your own speed. Like I absolutely hated school because of that. I always felt like I was way far ahead of everybody or
Yeah.
so far behind that I couldn't even catch up. And so like one thing that I really like is just being able to learn at my own pace by reading books, by watching stuff on the internet, by doing internet courses, all of that because it's as I progress, I can keep going. And I really like nowadays how they gamify stuff online. So
It
like
does
a
help.
lot of this,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh my gosh, it makes it so much more fun because then you're like getting points, you're progressing,
Well, you have
and
those
you're
mini
still
goals
learning.
built in, right? So that also motivates you as well. Because like, oh, if I do this next thing, I'll get that badge or that point or those things, or I'll be ranked this level, whatever. You know, it helps keep you kind of in it, which is helpful.
Hmm.
Yeah, it makes
Yeah,
it fun.
and I like what you said. It's really important to like have a goal and have a direction, but also it's important to not feel down if you don't know what that is. So
Yeah, it's true.
like there have been times in my life where I had no idea what I was going for. And they were like the worst times ever because you're like, oh, how did this happen? I'm like so old and I just don't even know what I'm doing with my life. Like everybody
Yeah,
else has their stuff figured out,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I'm the one like person who doesn't. It's kind of ridiculous because nobody knows what they're doing.
yeah.
But uh the one recommendation that I would give from my, at least from my own experience, from my own life, is do, if you have the opportunity, do the thing that you always wanted to do, but you didn't think was possible.
That's good advice. Yeah,
Yeah. Like I
yeah,
know for me, going after that, and I still constantly sometimes have days where I'm like, I can't do this. I'm never going to make it. But
yeah,
it's like, it's the coolest thing because I would do this for free. I really don't care. Like
yeah.
this is the coolest thing ever. And whenever I make progress, I'm just like, oh, this is incredible. Like I can't believe this. So if you have the opportunity, if there is something that you wanted to do and you thought it wasn't possible, not for you, no way, do it.
Also, the other side note to that too is like you learn so much better and you retain information so much better when it's something you want to do that you really want because you're interested in it. And I think like, like I like what you said too about like college or school in general. Like I always felt like that. I always felt like I was way far ahead of everybody else or I get bored. And then like there'd be stuff that interested me, but you can't deviate because you have to stay within this line of progress, right? So like I like doing it on my own because you can deviate to things that interest you. You can like maybe you find something out and then you kind of go off course because that gives you insight into something else that you didn't even know about before you started, right? And like so I think it is. It's one of the greatest things you can do. But like not a lot of people spend time or allow themselves the time to do that. They think they get out of school and that's it. That's all the learning they've done.
Yeah, like there were so a number of years ago, I listened to some stuff by Naval Ravikant. I don't know if he did like this Twitter thing or I don't remember exactly what it was, but I basically listened to a whole bunch of stuff by him. And he's he's done very well for himself financially, but also he's got a head on his shoulders. And so he was talking about how, it's crazy how we we get stuck in this profession and then we're set on that for life and that's it. He's like, really,
And we
in a
ostensibly
decent,
choose it when we're children.
yeah, when we have no idea any better.
Yeah.
Yeah. he's like, ideally in a society, every few years, every 4, 7, 10 years, we would take another period to go learn some stuff for a few years and then come back, because that way we would be able to improve, we would be better in society. And so like I I remember that, and I was like, that's really important, because not getting stuck where you are. Because even like it's important to learn in your field, but like if there's other stuff that interests you, it's also okay and really important to learn
Yeah.
that stuff too.
Well, it gives you more opportunities too. And I think like I do wonder because I think I do wonder like in the past, like you know, like I think people probably had more freedom to learn more even through their employment because they could like, people were more amenable to like if I want to learn that thing, can I maybe go do that now or shadow somebody like now I don't think you see that as much because they're so hell-bent on you having degrees and certificates and papers and stuff that you can't really easily, navigate from one area to another, or it's like there is no room to move. Like it's one of the things I hated about my job too, is like that it's like you're trapped in this place that you don't even want to be in, but there's really hard to get out of it, you know? It's like,
Tell me about it.
yeah, it sucks. Yeah.
I freaking know. Yeah, the whole college degree thing is such BS, because you get trapped in a place you don't want to be.
And
Like
it cracks me up too,
how
because half the people don't even have well, most of the people, if you have that many people going, they're not the top performers, you know? It's like it's ridiculous.
I mean, how few people actually work in the field they went to college for? How few? It's got to be like none. I've
Yeah.
met, so like I studied physics in undergrad. I've met so many physicists, and I've never met one that actually works in physics. It's just like crazy.
Yeah, it's like even adjacent to it, right? Like it's hardly the
Yeah,
case you're even close to it. But
yeah.
well, because that's the other problem too. You're picking something you think you might want to do when you're like, still a teenager, and then like that you're gonna do the rest of your life. Okay, that makes no sense. And when we also live way longer than ever now, we have more productive years than
Hmm.
ever, so you have plenty of time to change. You just have to find time for
Hmm.
yourself to do it. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
finding time is the big thing. And the best way to find time is to stop watching so much Netflix
Yeah. Just
and
make it.
put down your phone.
Do you ever do that? Yeah, I think like I know you can download like apps that'll tell you your screen time and stuff on your phone and all, but like I mean I think a good thing for people to do too is like look at your day and look at like how do you actually spend your hours? Because there's always room to make more time for like learning something new or doing things you want. But like if you just look at your schedule, I guarantee everybody can find time in that. Like because they
Hmm.
probably watch a lot of TV, they're probably on their phone a lot. Like if you're honest with yourself about it, you can probably cut a decent amount of things out that like are just distractions rather than actually doing anything.
And also, I like what you said there, finding what's important to you. Because another thing Naval Ravikant said in that was like, in life, a lot of people get upset because things don't go their way. And he's like, really, his strategy that's worked for him is he decides what's most important for him in life. And that it's okay to get upset about. Everything else, don't worry about it, you know?
Mhm.
But like figuring out what that thing is that's most important to you not only is good for your mental well-being in terms of, okay, fine, you can be upset about that and everything else you can let go, but also is great for finding direction.
Yeah.
Because like I can't even tell you how often I get sidetracked because I fear missing out on an opportunity, or you know not doing what I'm supposed to do, not living the best life I'm supposed to live, when really these things aren't anywhere in the direction of what's most important to me.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Because I do that a lot too, where I get distracted by other things or I digress off into something else. And it's like either forget the things that I'm working on or like, end up wasting time and I get mad at myself because it's something that wasn't even really that important in the first place. Like knowing what priorities are is so crucial for that too. And because it enables you to say yes and no to things in a way that has confidence because you know yourself enough to actually do it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So my next one is a difficult one. I mean,
Okay.
everything we mentioned already is kind of difficult,
They're
but
all hard, but they're
my
worth
next
doing.
one's yeah, my next one's a difficult one too. Uh, Meditation.
Hmm.
Okay,
I love
so
meditation. It's a good one.
yeah, so this is great, um, but it's also challenging. I think the benefit of meditation it's not there initially. And that's
No,
kind of what stinks.
it's
It
not there
takes,
for quite a while too. People have to realize that. Well, I mean, you get the, I think the initial benefit you get is you're doing something positive, time to yourself, and reflecting on like your thoughts, which is good. Those things are good. But yeah, the actual,
but
it takes a
the
long time for it to
actual
actually, yeah,
viable physical, you're not going to feel anything for a long time.
yeah,
Okay. And, but I think eventually one of the things that's helpful with meditation is that like it allows you to slow down. And so I think the meditation makes the world better. And here's why. Okay.
okay,
So meditation trains you to slow down because no matter what you're doing, you just have to sit there. Even though you have this thing in your brain that says you're supposed to do this and that and that and that and that, you're supposed to sit there. And you eventually you slow down. And you remember that study they did with like the guys in seminary where they had to go across campus to go
yeah,
deliver a message, and the ones who were told you need to get there fast, they passed the guy who was like dying on the sidewalk. Whereas
yeah,
the ones who were like, just deliver this message when you get there is fine, they all stopped and helped the guy. So like having that, being able to slow down, it may not seem like much, but it intrinsically makes you a kinder person. And so by doing that, it's making the world a better place. So
nice, good
I think
logic
that
there.
meditation is really important for that point because not only does it improve your life, but also it makes the world a better place.
I would also add too that like, the whole purpose of meditation is letting the thoughts come and not attaching to them. It also teaches you that you don't have to grab onto everything in your mind at all times and focus on it, that you can let things go. It teaches you that things aren't as important as you're making them out to be, that your thoughts aren't as, immediate as they seem, that you can kind of process these things differently. Because I always liked to, I think it was one of the, I can't remember which author, but it was in Buddhism. They said like, the goal of meditation is untying the psychic knots, right? All the stuff in your head and kind of working through it so that your head's clear, you have like balance. And I always like that idea because, you let these thoughts come and go, and then like in your regular life, you realize you can just let go of it. You don't have to hold on. It's like if you're angry, it helps you deal with emotions, it helps you deal with like stress, it helps in a lot of areas, but it takes practice. It's like everything else that we mentioned. It takes a fair amount of work in the beginning before you see real benefit. But I think you start seeing benefit pretty quickly with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the other thing is like, how much is enough? That's the difficult thing.
Yeah,
You know, how
yeah.
much is enough? And like, I think they've done studies where even like 5 minutes a day is beneficial.
How about
But
meditation?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I always like, I
But
mean, I think well, go ahead. Sorry. What were you saying?
but then it's like I've heard it said where like you need to sit at least an hour a day or like in order to really get the benefits from. And it's like, okay, I get that, but I don't.
No, I do like, you know, I go in kicks, but I usually try to do like 10 minutes now a day. But like when I'm doing it more effectively, like usually in the morning and night is good. But those are the
Hmm.
two best times. I think they're the easiest times. Or if you have like a lunch break or something, you can do it then. Like that's easy too. There's plenty of
Hmm.
time to do it. And I think if you do like 10 to 20 minutes is good because it's easy to fit into the day, no problem.
Hmm. Yeah. I actually, so there was this book by Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, called Reframe Your Brain. I just listened to it. Really good book. And he talked about how he used to get pissed off like waiting in line and everything like that. And until he reframed it, where waiting in line is a great time to practice my breathing. And so it's
Yeah,
it's like an opportunity to meditate, pretty much. And
yeah.
so yeah, I think
That's
there's
the
an
other.
opportunity for everybody.
That's another thing too, is reframing your perspective on things or reframing situations. Because like I think that's a really good one because people forget that like the way the world looks to us is all within our control. Like we create all the meaning. And so we can reframe anything to make it different than it is. Like we mentioned this before in past episodes, like Nietzsche talked about suffering as like an opportunity to overcome ourselves rather than something negative, right? So we can flip it into a positive by looking at like, how can I overcome the situation? How can this make me better? How can this challenge me to develop new skills? Whatever. And we can do that with everything. And the same with that, like, like, yeah, I hate waiting in line, but this is a chance to do this other thing that's going to be beneficial. Thinking that way can really help improve our lives too. Good one.
hmm I've been trying to do something that's really, really difficult for me because I'm one of those people who always walks really fast and like knows exactly where I'm going. I'm not on
I
my
walk fast
phone.
too.
I
I like
just
walking fast.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so like, but I'm trying to slow down my life. And so one of the things that I've been doing to help uh practice patience is getting into the long line at checkout and and when I get stuck behind somebody who's walking really slow, just walk really slow. It's like the most frustrating thing ever. But
Yeah, it's hard.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's the tough thing too. That need to move so fast, the feeling that we have to move so fast sucks. So slowing down is really helpful, but it's very hard, especially in this world, because you always feel like, like I don't know, that's 5 minutes I could be doing something else. So that's, you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't have been stuck here if not for that car in front of me going 25 and a 40, and like, it's just it can wear on you though too. Patience
Mhm.
is important. I used to get so angry. I used to commute a lot. I was commuting like an hour a day, both ways. And I caught myself getting so angry driving. Like I realized how mad I was getting driving because like, I would try to listen to the radio and stuff, but it's all the same thing every day. So I started to use that time to listen to books. And that helped immensely because it changed my focus to this. And like when I got stuck in like traffic, I'd be like, oh, I can listen to the next chapter. It's fine. And that made
Mhm.
it so much better than the alternative. So like finding things like that sometimes is crucial.
Dude, it's another great thing for dealing with driving. Just buy an old police interceptor because when you're driving, everybody
Never gets
pulls
out
off
of the way.
over in front of you.
That's true. Yeah. Well, it's like
When
they
I
have,
used to when I used to come and visit you, like, and I would be driving, every time I would just be in the left lane and people would just pull over to the right and I just keep going in
because
the
they're
left.
not sure. That's a good
Yeah.
point. Yeah. And that's still had that nice mirror on the side that looked all like official. So it worked
Oh
out well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. They are good cars for that reason. Oh my God. That's another alternative then too. So books on tape or buy on police interceptor and
Dude,
you're
and they're
good.
so cheap. They're like one of the
Oh yeah.
cheapest, most reliable cars out there.
Yeah. Well, because they do
Yeah.
service them a lot and like, when they have them and like, they're taken care of. So yeah.
And it's dude, it's like a freaking luxury car.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
Oh
tank
my
too.
gosh. Dude, it feels like you're driving on a cloud.
Yeah, these are the best
Yeah.
cars. They are nice, aren't they? It's like
Yep.
the old Lincoln Town Car where you feel like you're just floating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
It's a
it's
nice
great.
ride.
Yeah. So you have any other suggestions for how to live a great life?
Yeah, I think pay
Oh,
attention. Oh, I was gonna say, pay
yeah.
attention to like, your real relationships in your life that matter to you. Because I think that's something we don't do enough either. Like, like, even this, like meeting every week, chat has been great. It's been so awesome. Like, and like, I notice myself, like, it's so easy to like get caught up in shit and forget about the people like in your lives that really do matter to you. And like the people that matter to you, not like the people you feel like you have an obligation to see and stuff like that, but that really matter, like seeing them, making time for them, this honest time to actually spend with them. It's hard to do. We all feel pressured and stressed, and like it's so easy to take things for granted and get caught up, but like it's so much better when you make that time because it's something that crucially matters to you and just enriches your life.
Yeah, it's crazy because I know I've been stuck with this whole like success mentality where you think that you're the whole like basically the quotient of your life is how much money you make, your net worth.
Yeah. And if you stop, right, then you fail or something. And if you don't work
hmm
every day and like, yeah, yeah.
hmm But like study after study, they show that the quality of life depends upon relationships with other people. So learning to cultivate those and figure out which ones are important and also get rid of which ones aren't important.
Yeah.
hmm
And know yourself too. Like I think like, like some people like I know some people that like going out like a lot. Like they like going out, meeting people all the time. Like I know other people like myself included, I don't like going out that much. So like knowing yourself and knowing like what works for you is really important too. And finding people that works with together is great.
hmm
Yeah.
Absolutely. Uh, kind of related to that is kind of like let go of all of your grudges and resentments and all of that frustrations. Just drain off your grievances, basically.
None of it
And
matters.
none of it matters. We're all going to be
No.
dead, you know? But also, like, it's it's kind of like a daily practice, but also it's a bigger thing than that too. So like if you can do it every day, especially before you're going to sleep, just like anybody who's frustrated you recently, just kind of let it go. But also sometimes you need to work on it. Like I go see a therapist to work through a lot of the stuff that I had come up in my life, and it's been a great experience to work on this stuff. But it's like I've been carrying a lot of burdens for a long time for no
Yeah,
reason. And why am I
we all
carrying
do.
these jerks around with me? Like
Yeah.
instead of the people who actually mean something to me and made a difference in my life, I'm carrying around these a-holes who I would rather not.
Well, that's
So
the
yeah.
funny thing though. People like I mean, I know some people like this too. Like go to work, they hate their boss, or somebody at work really pisses them off, and they bring that anger home, and then that affects the relationships with the people that they really do care about. But because they can't, they don't have an outlet to express themselves at work, it ends up getting expressed elsewhere rather than dealt with in a healthy way. So yeah, that's a really good one. Because that
Mhm.
stuff just doesn't, in the long run, it doesn't matter either. Like we hold this shit that just doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, and you just got to do the best you can. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be 100%. Like there's no reason to be a perfectionist and draining off your
No.
grievances. Like if you
No.
can be if you can be 1% less angry at the world, go for it. It's going to improve your life
Yeah.
vastly.
Well, I think that's a good one. That's another good one too, is like you don't have to be perfect. Just do the best you can because all of we're all works in progress. We're all working on ourselves. It's all going to take time. And things are going to change down the road. So just don't worry about being perfect. Try and do the best you can now, and things will dramatically improve no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another one, because we're getting close to the end. We got to be getting close to the end. But
Yeah. We got to
another
be.
one
If we kept count or
is,
anything.
yeah, is sleep. Do what you
Uh,
can to optimize your sleep. Because for a long time, people thought that sleep wasn't important. It turns out it is. And there are a lot of things you can do to improve your sleep, like, making sure the room's as dark as possible, making sure it's quiet. Like I wear
doesn't
earplugs at
sleep
night
help
just
us
to make
like
sure it's quiet. Yeah.
doesn't it helps us like reset too? I think a lot of things physiologically, right?
Dude,
Hormones
I
and
can't
stuff
even
like
tell
that, and
you.
like
Yeah.
yeah,
So like one of the things of sleep is if you can, you try and make it pretty regular, like same times every day where you go and sleep and you wake up. And because I've been doing that for so long, when it gets close to my bedtime, I feel like I'm drunk. Like I'm so tired from the day that I half the time I feel like I'm drunk. I wake up the next morning and I was like, what was I thinking? Like it's just crazy. Uh yeah, because your brain just it does
yeah.
all types of stuff while you're sleeping.
Oh, dude, I notice if I don't get a good night's sleep, my next day is terrible until I take a nap or something. And
Mm-hmm.
like it is funny when you have a schedule like I never use an alarm clock. I know I'm always going to get up at the exact same time pretty much every day, and it's easy. It works out well.
Mm-hmm.
But sleep's a hard one too, because again, that's another one where people get so caught up in their stressful lives, and then they feel like they have to unwind, so they stay up way too late watching TV and stuff, and you
Dude,
ruin it.
I have the hardest time with it because I get a second wind like an hour before bedtime. I
Yeah,
literally when it's time when I should be winding down, I'm like, all right, let's go. I'm ready. And
one more
it's
thing.
it's the most frustrating thing ever because uh but what I do, so here's a little life hack. Everybody's like, I don't read books because every time I read, it puts me to sleep.
Ooh,
Okay,
go to
simple.
sleep.
Start reading before you go to sleep.
See, I have to watch myself because sometimes if I read before bed, I'll stay up reading.
Yeah.
Which,
But
yeah,
you know what? It's not, I mean, it's not terrible. It's not the worst thing on earth.
no, yeah.
I do that too. I found like so uh there's like a whole bunch of different stuff that can help you sleep. Like making the room colder, taking a warm shower beforehand, so then like that drop in body temperature does it. Making
No,
sure
the
that
cold
you
room is really important, I think. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and making sure that you have a that you're physically active. So like if you're having a hard time sleeping, is probably because you're not physically active enough during the day.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
making sure that you're exercising more. Um, and then there in that book, Outlive. So he was talking about uh some medications for sleep and how like none of them work because they all have really bad things, except for one that I actually used to prescribe for dogs that was great for like calming them down. It's called trazodone, and
Oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah. But like there would be dogs that would be off the wall, and then I would just send that home with the owners, and they would just be like, chill, because we would do surgeries or whatever on the dog, and they would need to just relax for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
So
and
I'd
they're
be
not
like,
going
hey,
to
just give
the
him this trazodone a few
well,
times
especially
a
when they're
day.
puppies, they're not gonna
Yeah.
like, yeah.
And dude, like the owners were like, "Oh my God, can you give me like a lifetime prescription?"
Just drug them all the time.
Yeah.
They're the
Yeah.
best dog. What do you do? I just give them a handful of trazodone, like Tic Tacs.
hmm Yeah. So if
Yeah.
you have difficulty sleeping,
Hmm.
I'm not a human doctor, so I can't tell you if it's good, but speak with your human doctor about that. That's a good one.
They'll definitely give you something.
Yeah, right. I know. Yeah, probably not trazodone because you're not making any money off of that.
No, no, it's
That's
been
an
around
easy
too
one.
long. It is.
Yeah.
Uh,
Any other life hacks?
I'd say just don't be so hard on yourselves. I think that's the
Oh,
important one. Yeah.
yeah. Simplify.
Oh, that's good too. Yeah.
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 Get rid of your junk. Like emotionally, mentally, but also physically. Get rid of your junk. Like if
Dude,
you
that's it.
haven't used it in a while, get rid of it.
Dude, that is, it's funny. Like I was talking to Anna about that the other day because there's so many like self-storage places around. And it's like all this junk that people carry that they're afraid to get rid of. And it's like, just get rid of it. You don't need it. Like, if it's really important to you, you'll keep it. But like, it feels so much better when you don't have all that clutter around, you don't have all that stuff on your mind, worried about it. And also just like, it just gets in the way of your life too, I think. It holds you back.
Mm-hmm.
All that like stuff holds you back in the past that you don't need. Move forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a difficult thing to do because you look at it and you're like, but I spent money on that, and like I
Oh,
really want to
sentimental,
learn that
right?
one day. I just don't have the time for it. And it's like, well, just get rid of it. If you get it again in the future, then maybe it was meant to be, but probably you won't even remember. Like I've gotten rid of so much stuff over the course of my life,
Yeah.
and there's really only one thing that I kind of wish that I didn't. But even so, it's like,
Yeah.
doesn't really matter.
No, and it's funny too when we hang on to those things, we're like, well, I might use it later or something. That stays in your mind too and adds stress. You might not notice it, but it does. And it's like a weight off your shoulders when you get rid of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So you
and
were
like,
saying be true to yourself?
oh no, yeah, I said just like, but I have another one actually, which is take care of the things that stress you out now. Don't wait. Just get them
Oh,
over with.
that's a good one.
Because that's something that's super, like phone calls, this stuff nobody wants to do, right? Dealing with like your student loans, dealing with your taxes. Just get it
Mm-hmm.
out of the way. Just do it. You're going to do it anyway. You have to. You have to, and it just feels so
Mm-hmm.
much better when it's
Just
done
pull
instead
off
of
the
stress.
band-aid.
Yeah, yeah. Instead of, because I used to do that all the time. I wouldn't make the phone call. I'd stress about it for a month, and then I'd do it and it'd take 10 minutes and I'd
Mm-hmm.
work something out. I'd be done. And then you're working towards solving it rather than just letting it be this weird, hazy burden that's following you around.
Mm. Yeah, that's a great one. Deal with whatever it is. Yeah, so I think we've about nailed it for how to live an awesome life.
Yeah, hopefully that helps everybody, right? How to live
And you know
well, live
what?
better.
And you know what? Here's the thing. For those the little gift for those of you who have made it to the end of the episode. Even though you do all these things, life is still going to suck sometimes.
Yeah,
That's just
well,
the way it is.
yeah, yeah, just go easy on yourself. Take it down a notch. Everybody will be fine. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we'll make it. All right.
Yeah.
So there you have it, right? How to live well or whatever, awesome life, whatever we called this episode. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. Thanks for listening. Check us out on YouTube wherever you get your podcasts. Like, share, subscribe. Helps us out a lot. There is a little survey on the show notes or under the description. We'd love your insight. We're going to put something together. You guys will get it for free if you give us your insight. Yeah.
We should call it Stoic Life Hacks. That would probably get a lot more
Oh,
people to listen.
that's a good idea. All right. So Stoic
Mm-hmm.
life hacks from the Existential Stoic podcast. We'll be back later this week with a quick fix, though. Until then, later, Randy.
Later, Danny.